Robert, Victoria, thank you very much for taking the time. I think we're going through each one of the sections and asking similar questions about where you see it. But I would suggest that since we've had quite a few changes in the leadership of the association, that you present yourself. Just a short presentation about each one of you.
Okay, I guess as the chair, I'll start. Well, I'm Robert Thilthorpe. I'm a technical manager with the Fire Industry Association in the UK. I've been involved in Euralarm, well, since I joined the FIA, so 2002, and certainly the services section since its inception as a task group within Euralarm. Victoria?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I'm Victoria Ferrera. I'm working for Verisure Group. I'm the head of regulatory affairs for all Verisure Group, which has a presence in 16 different countries. We decided to join Euralarm 2 years ago, as it's the most relevant association in the sector for us. Now have joined the service section as vice president since a month ago.
Great. So, Victoria, I'll start with you, but you stated you're fairly new to Euralarm as well. What was your motivation to apply for the position as vice chair?
Well, for us, associations have the possibility to be the key voice of the industry in topics which might impact our sector, and therefore we think it's really important to be part and very proactive in the associations. That's why we decide to try to apply for a vice chair position in one of the most relevant sections to us, because we think we can really work for. We can really we can really be more active from that position as company.
And Robert?
It's really a continuation of the work we've been doing, the work that Mark started, then Enzo, then Martin, then yourself, John. Because I've been involved with it, it's the next step of what FIA can do to support Euralarm. So we're still, whilst the UK is technically no longer Europe, we're still very key in trying to support what happens within Europe, because it does impact on what happens in the UK.
Right. Okay, thanks. Now, Victoria, I have a question. For your company and for other companies, what's the perspective and what's the interest of joining the services section?
As companies, well, it's not joining just the services section, which is important, but it's the fact to join the Euralarm as an association, being a company, because we think it's the most relevant association there in the security sector, and there is no doubt of the important role of this association in activities related to, for example, the standard organizations such as CEN and CENELEC. From this perspective, I think a company is almost a must to be part of one strong association and be able to contribute to the work developed by them. We think that it's a very good opportunity to be actually involved in the works and how the association cooperates with other European stakeholders, adopting a proactive roles to make sure that our voice and our position are listened, and that our ideas are supported by such a big platform as Euralarm is.
Thanks. Now, I asked within the board that each one of the sections come up with clear section targets that are smart or achievable. Now, I know that you've discussed it within the section, but could you tell us a little bit, Robert, what the strategic topics are for the section to work on within the upcoming years?
Certainly, yes. We held a special meeting to address this at the start of the year, and obvious subjects, competency and EN 16763, and how we move that forward within Europe across the industry, remote services 507010, and how it links in with the CENELEC TC79 product standards, and certainly where there was conflict, try to remove the conflict between those two standards and get a better understanding of where they were thinking to how services are AI very big topic, and it's the service implications of AI and what liabilities are there from a service provider. It's clear where they lie with the manufacturer, but where does the service provider pick up the liabilities? The whole of the EN 15518 series with security, CCT services, both the standards and how the service aspect of that is used, very big, and particularly for Victoria residential services, and how that market is evolving and how Euralarm can influence that. Related to that, cyber security. Again, what's the service aspect of cyber security? Remote services, is that a weak point in cyber security or not? The whole sustainability issue. Again, it's clear how sustainability works with manufacturers. How does the service industry deal with sustainability, and how do we deal with that? The aspects of physical versus electronic security, and how our services integrate into building management systems. And if there's more building management systems taking over our area, how does that impact on our members? And of course, BIM, digital twin. Again, this has been looking at the design phase and installation, but where's the services aspect to that? Is you've got your BIM, but where's the service part of that? And a very specific subject, which we're going to have a meeting on, is access control. And we had a discussion on that, is how that impacts on services. And to be, as an example, we've had a conflict between a UK standard, BS 7273-74, and a European standard on door release, where the door release people think there's a conflict and the fire alarm people think, no, you press the button and then you're sorted. So that sort of things. And GDPR, what's the impact of that on services? What information do you hold? What information can you hold, and what you can make available? And the bigger one is, where's the challenges? Who are the competitors tomorrow? Who's coming into the market? We've had discussions around the big IT, Google, etc. Are they going to be our competitors, or are they just going to be somebody that's in the market that's got a little bit of it and we're not too bothered about? So there's a large number of subjects there, and the plan is that at each meeting we focus on 2 or 3 of those and try and work out what the Euralarm deliverables are going to be in that area.
Great. Well, thanks for that. Now, if I follow that thought, Victoria, where do you see changes in the services market? When I mean changes, the impact of new business models or new technologies or new players that are touching services.
Yeah, thank you. Well, most of the changes we are foreseen for the service market has been mentioned already by Robert when describing which strategic topic do we want to follow from the service section, because it is true that artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and also newcomers are playing with very different rules, are appearing in the market as new tools and new players, and they're going to stay here. So the changes that we see is the integration of new technologies, especially, as I mentioned, artificial intelligence, and how it can change the liability rules that we have right now. So this is something we have to monitor very carefully. Also, cybersecurity is going to have a very strong role. And it's true that we have now also to pay attention not only to the physical security of our installations, for example, but also to secure that the data of our customers and the data of the services produced by the services that we provide. So it's another focus that we have to tackle. And at the end, regarding new players, I think it's really important to see how the new business models are being constructed and try to adapt the best as possible the regulatory and the standardization environment that we have already, because the most important thing is to make clear that our sector maintains robust and reliable. So it's something that we have to work on.
Thank you very much, Victoria. I've got 2 more questions. One is tied to what the European Commission is calling the green and digital transition. they're referring to sustainability and digitalization. Do we see a effect on your alarm business tied to this, or where would you see an effect tied to that? Either Robert or Victoria?
From my perspective, it's what the information that all this stuff is going to require companies to have, or is it the trade association that collates the information, is what they're requiring and what the restrictions they're putting on will impact on the business. The cybersecurity of what you can use cameras for or what you can't use cameras for, etc., will have an impact on what we're doing. So we need to be aware of what they are and how we can address them to ensure that we can still provide the services that we are providing in the marketplace and for European safety.
Victoria?
Well, what I think is really important to follow all the new initiatives related to sustainability that are being conducted by European Commission, and in those cases, those that, although they are more focused on product, we have to also closely monitor from our service section, because it could indirectly impact the service itself.
One of the things that you and I discussed, Victoria, was the EPPD that the EU is updating just right now. Do you see that affecting our businesses, or do you see that as giving us a greater potential to position both security and fire and services?
Yes, I think we can take the opportunity to try to make this new regulation benefit our sector in that sense, but conversation have just been started, and there are what we have to also take here in mind is that some countries are working on their own scheme in the sense. So the best thing will be to work from the very beginning with the European Union here on the EPPD and all the initiatives related to it, and try to ensure that the outcome of this initiative is followed by the rest of the countries in the same sense. Try to promote harmonization.
Right. One last question, and that's tied to qualification and education. How do you see that touching the services sector? Obviously, we worked on one norm some years ago, touching both the qualification and education. But where do you see that going forward? And where's the importance in that for us?
I would say it's the key. We're a very technical industry. We're traditionally technical. If we have people coming in, they need to understand that, and if they're not trained and they don't understand it, then there will be mistakes. We're seeing that all the way across in other areas. For example, we had an FI meeting on lithium-ion batteries, and people not understanding the technology, not understanding the risks of the technology, and then do silly things like, oh, change the battery for a bigger one, but then it overcharges and the local fire brigade have to turn up and deal with the problems. So it's that side. And for our industry to develop people and actually bring them in, because if there's no career progression, no sort of training, where can they go? What can they do? Because it's not an area that, for most people, the first thing they don't think is, I'll join the fire. Well, I'll join the fire brigade, but I won't join the fire protection industry. It's not something people go in automatically from the start. It's something people fall into. So therefore, training and education is key to keeping that workforce building and expanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, and I think our sector has a specific problem that is very technical sector and really essential one, a really interesting one, but it's very small one at the same time. So what we need is to promote more knowledge of our sector, and that we are there, and that we are really interesting sector to work at. So I think there is a lot of pedagogy, a lot of work to make us more public and maybe more close to the universities, for example, and try to attract the best talent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Before I close, is there anything from your side that you would like to mention regarding the services section or generally about Eurolong? Any closing statements? If
My
not,
thoughts would be, yes, if we can get more members, that would be lovely.
Victoria, anything from your side?
Yeah, the same. I will aim all the members of the Eurolong to join service section, and of course, we're here to attend any idea that can come from other sections to try to work jointly with them, and also to provide the best outcomes to build a very good and strong Eurolong position.
Well, thank you to the both of you for taking the time and for sharing your thoughts and where you see the services section going forward.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Thanks to you.